World War IV is upon us. It's an economic war. It's a trade war. It's a proxy war. It's regional wars. It's a culture war where Chinese propaganda funding Hollywood and their leftist cohorts publicly, they're the biggest buyer of ads and propaganda, they own Hollywood, are literally using classic British style or Roman style divide and conquer race war and religious war against us. Again, if you're a TV viewer, you can see the big map behind me. Let's go right over here. I'm going to just give you a brief Gestalt lay history. Anybody can go research this for yourself about how Trump is launching via India a proxy war. China has begun to invade Hong Kong with paramilitary in plain clothes and thousands of men on motorcycles that are military and police attacking men, women, and children. They're threatening to invade Taiwan. They're threatening to attack Japanese islands. They are claiming islands of the Philippines. They're building artificial islands. So to understand what Trump's doing, we have to understand the history of it. China, just 50 years ago, didn't have electricity in 90% of the country. They were rural farmers 60 years ago. The globalists came in, set them up, let Mao kill 100 million of his own people, took them all in, collectivized them in major cities. Chinese were the first robots. They were slave human robots, basically. People with souls, I'm not saying they are robots, they were used as a robot clone army to build the giant factories, the giant cities, the giant weapon systems. They were given all our weapons, a Panama Canal, all of our infrastructure, 98% rare earth mineral monopoly by the global cartel to maneuver the United States into a position of weakness. Now, the way they got the Pentagon to go along with this, they said, oh, we'll use China to leverage out Russia and others. This is 30 years ago. We'll let them into the WTO 25 years ago. And we'll do all of this, but they'll never have a military outside of their country. They promise they'll never be expansionist. As soon as Obama got in, they violated all of that. Obama gave them the Office of Personnel Management hack, rolled up all of our agents worldwide. Total treason. Apple, Google moved there 10 years ago. They admit they moved there last year. Gave them all the code keys to all your devices. That was even Reuters last year. It really happened 10 years ago. So to understand this proxy war militarily and from a resource perspective, then we'll get into the propaganda war, which is really how they're attacking us. We've got Google Maps up here. You've got from the Atlantic Ocean and Spain and Western Europe through Central and Eastern Europe into the Middle East, Asia Minor, Central Asia, and then into the Far East with China and Japan. Now let's look at this. This is critical. 1,400 years ago, Muhammad is right here. He takes over the key crossroads of the caravans coming out of the Empire of India that stretched all the way over to Iran and all the way into China. India was the dominant force, not China, not Japan at that time. They were the most powerful empire in the East. And we're expanding trade. So that's what's happening in India. Within 100 years of Muhammad dying, they've already invaded and taken over many areas of the Middle East. Later, they take over Turkey, that was European, which again was the Eastern Empire, what was left of the Roman Empire. Within 1,000 years ago, within just a few hundred years of Muhammad's death, they have already taken over what's Pakistan today, pushed the Indian Empire back, taken over and surrounded India. You have Kashmir, that is the birthplace of the Indian culture, and who were Anglos. That's just an interesting fact of that, and set up India. And then folks flooded in from all over the world because there was so much prosperity in that area. So this was basically a European expeditionary force in Kashmir that settled in that area. And that's just part of the caste system. It's racist, it's not right, but you know, the upper caste was white, and that's just how it worked. Okay, but Islam was even worse. So all of that's going on. That's just some of the background. So China is over here. They're starting to go into Hong Kong. They're starting to go into Taiwan. They're threatening Japan. They're building islands all over the place, way down here, even by the Philippines. The Philippines is having to threaten them now. You know, Japan invaded the Philippines starting World War II. Well, China's basically doing that right now. They're sending in their companies that are really paramilitary and others. They're taking over the colleges. They're buying everybody off just like they're doing here. They're buying off the media. They're using all this incredible money they've been given by us, giving trade superiority of 900 billion a year for decades to be able to just take over the planet. Again, they were given 98% of rare earth minerals. You just don't get that. No one else is allowed by the globalists to operate. They sue you. The UN comes after you. China is able to do human clones, take people's organs. They just do whatever the hell they want. They're God, basically, because they're an evil Chi-Com force feeding on their own people. They're the model of the global technocracy the NWO wants. So Trump and Japan and South Korea and others form an alliance. As soon as Trump gets elected, he says this new world order is a screw job for everybody. We're not going along with it, including the Chinese people. They don't like it. He meets with the leader of India. He hugs him. He says, hey, if China gives you problems and keeps trying to take over Kashmir, then in 49, the UN made India create an autonomous zone, which then now China has come in and openly taken over about a third of the country. The Islamics are pouring in, now pushing to the new borders of India and trying to take India proper over itself. And again, leftist media calls it Indian extremism. They call him a Hindu extremist, even though the Pakistanis were Indians until the Islamics took it over. There's Hindu and Buddhist temples all over Pakistan. Well, there were. The Muslims blew them all up. So all of this is happening. All of this is going on. And then once they take your country over, they remove any symbols you ever existed. So they erase that they were Indians. So now this extremist, like everybody's a white supremacist, Trump's a white supremacist for wanting to have a border. Okay, well now the Indians are Hindu extremists because they want to exist and don't want to be slaughtered. So you've got China bordering right here in what is Kashmir. And we can probably put that slide up and then go back to this in a moment. And so Trump green-lighted, go ahead. You're not under that UN thing anymore. Go in within hours of what happened with the currency devaluation. Within hours, they sent the troops in. The Indians did. And I want to be clear. India didn't invade Kashmir. Kashmir was stolen from it when the British Empire was dissolving and becoming the New World Order, because India never really got its freedom. Under their current leader, India is, to a certain extent, actually becoming independent, finally. That's the reality. And Mahatma Gandhi said a lot of great stuff. Turns out he was a British agent who was segueing away from empire, but really they just took the British flag down and it was still controlled by England, but not England itself, the model, the world government system set up by Cecil Rhodes and others. By the way, this is all PhD level mainline history. This is mainline history in any real 1,000-page, stuff. Not pop history, but the real history. And I'm giving you a basic generalization, okay? I'm not a historian on this. I've just read over 1,000 history books, probably 15 or so on this subject. It's all very, very fascinating. And I've always wanted to go to Kashmir. It's a very, very beautiful and mystic place. So you got China right here, and this is the key piece in the whole chessboard. Is this whole fight going on over India, because you'll control the trade routes, you'll control the water, you'll control everything into Burma and Thailand and Vietnam and the Philippines, who've all had wars with China. China's currently in physical war with Vietnam, trying to steal their oil fields and their coastlines. China is completely expansionist, completely out of control. So we're all told Russia is the enemy and expansionist because Russia's not expansionist. Russia has cut their defense budget and kicked the globalists out of the country in the early 1990s, and to a certain extent has defeated the left, trying to make little boys cut their genitals off and all the rest of it. The same demoralization funded by the Chi-Coms. The Chi-Coms will kill you if you preach that propaganda in China, but they finance it for Russia, they finance it for America, they finance it for Europe. They admit to undermine and demoralize us. All the leftist garbage, all the trash, all the anti-family stuff, it's funded right out of there into the Tavistock Institute, into Hollywood. China funds it all because they were set up to do this and demoralize the West. And so Trump has turned the Indians loose to be on their flank and to let China know you're now in a vice grip. And this is the stuff that World War IV is made of. This is the real deal. Doesn't mean nuclear missiles, doesn't mean huge explosions, even though both sides are nuclear powers, India and Pakistan. It means Trump's taking the gloves off. He's for real. This is really happening. And the House of World Government is dead.